Hey, fellow fanatics of fights. Thanks for joining us on Brawls and Beers. It's your host, Robin Black, and I'm pleased to be joined by my co-host, Steffi D.
Hello.
Steffi Daniels, Crooklyn. Call her what you please. It's Brawls and Beers, and we have a great time here. We look at one fight. We enjoy a ice-cold beverage, an ice-cold beer. Talk a little bit about it. We look at one fight in detail, and today we're going to look ahead at next weekend's Fight Pass exclusive Michael Bisping, the Count, versus Luke Rockhold. It's going to be a good one. Steffi, what do you think?
I think it's awesome. We've got the Count versus the Surfer Boy. Great fight. Lots of emotion in that. They are going at it every chance they get. I'm definitely excited about this fight. But what I am really, really excited about is what beer are you drinking this week, Robin Black?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this beer, too. And I was trying to figure out, do I get a British beer, like a stout, a British stout, or do I get some kind of surfer beer? And I thought, I tried surfing one time, and I was terrible at it in California. But when I was in Jamaica once, I did a little body surfing, and that was better. It was a lot easier. So I got some Red Stripe. It is a Jamaican-style lager. And very, very delicious beer.
Awesome. Now, you went through why you chose it and what it tastes like. Where do you rank your beer?
Well, first of all, taste, it's like a lot of, Mexican, Jamaican, South Pacific, Atlantic, all of these island beers, they're always a little lighter, but just a little tart. They're some of my favorite beers in the world. How would I rank it? This would be a beer that if there was 15 beers to choose from and I saw one of these, it might be, number 2 or 3. It's definitely, an upper level beer. And, we're still in the first few weeks of Brawls and Beers, so I'm still choosing beers that I really want to drink. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to try some beers I've never had before, and I think some of those are going to rank pretty low. But this one ranks up pretty high. I give it a good 8 out of 10. And I'm on my second one, so they always taste a little better on 2, even better on 3, and then sometimes they go downhill from there.
Awesome. So I'm having an ice cold water because I'm not a heavy drinker. It's a very special occasion indeed when I drink a beer, but today is not that special occasion. Maybe next time.
Now, I wouldn't call myself a heavy drinker, but I sure enjoy a beer, and I really, really it pairs so well with a fight. If you go to the theater, you might want to have a glass of wine, and if you're in Russia, you drink vodka. But when you're watching fights, there's just something so good about an ice-cold beer.
Yeah, when you're watching a fight, yes, a beer definitely goes well. But I do that really, really rarely. I drink maybe 4 times a year, if that. What? Yeah, just very rarely. But one of these days, I'm gonna have a beer with you. But today's not that day. Today, I'm drinking on water and life. So
fair enough. And I think the next time somebody wins a title, if we break that down, maybe you can have a beer. Or you like cider, right?
I like cider and I like ale. So, but I like fruit ales, like apple ale. It's good stuff.
You're such a girl. It's awesome.
I am. I like Angry Orchard and stuff like that. I don't like, but however, I do like some Guinness too. I love Guinness. Guinness and Pale Moon, they call it a rattlesnake bite here. So.
Women who drink Guinness and smoke cigars are generally admired by men almost everywhere.
I don't smoke cigars.
No. Well, you're halfway there.
I'll try that sometime. So, anyways, let's talk about the fight because this is an interesting one, and it's one that's been in the making for about 2 years. And in the making, I mean these two have really had it in for each other, and I am fairly excited about watching it. However, it's going to be harder for me to choose who's going to win because I like both guys. Mm-hmm. They both present a very unique skill set. Luke is, I think Luke is really dynamic. Michael Bisping, when he first started out, he was the dynamic guy, but he has found a rhythm that works for him, and he uses it. And that strike and bike thing and the preservation of his conditioning for the later rounds works. Luke is real dynamic and stuff. So that's my thoughts on it. You are the analyst, though, so educate me and everybody else listening.
Well, first of all, you are so much more than a pretty face. Like, his strike and bike. Like, you have a good sense of who these guys really are, and I think a lot of people kind of do with Michael Bisping. You get this sense of him as kind of a brute. He's a northern English guy. You could see him swaggering after a bunch of pints outside of a bar, like starting a fight outside of a soccer game, or they'd call it football. He's got that nature to the way that he approaches it. But you're right. That I like the term strike and bike. In fact, I've never really heard people use that much. It's very good. But he's super movement oriented. Mm-hmm. And he's getting better and better at it. And what's key about it, first of all, Canadians love him. Like, we love Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping. Like, we love this guy. Americans, it's interesting that you like him because Americans tend to hate him.
I love him. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Well, I don't know what it is, but you guys hate him somewhat. But that's good. The British love him. Canadians love him. Sure, Australians. We're all kind of part of that same colony. But Americans hate him. And it really works for him from a money-making perspective. And so does his style. Guys win with movement. You look at TJ Dillashaw. You look at, so many. Frankie Edgar kind of pioneered that modern movement-based game where you move your head coming in, you strike, you move your head coming out, you pivot out, or you use a lot of footwork. Bisping's kind of a 185 version of that. Only thing is, he's also exciting. So he's got that winning nature, that winning ability, and Demetrius Johnson, who I think is a brilliant fighter, kind of uses that as well, that mobility-based fighting. But some people find it boring. But something about Bisping is his willingness to actually spend a little longer time in that pocket and take one to give two. He's super happy if he can land the first punch and the last punch. And psychologically, that's what he seems to want to do. As long as he hits you the last one, he feels like he's won the exchange. And that makes him want to spend time there. So we like watching that. But one interesting thing about the matchup is my basic sort of non-understanding. And this is no disrespect. I know everybody watches fights for different reasons. And everybody watches anything for different reasons. My wife works in theater. I like to hear her sing. Some people like to see the dancing. Some people like to see the costumes. You go for a lot of different reasons. And in fighting, people love seeing fights where guys hate each other. Mm-hmm. They love it. And that's a part of this matchup. But for me, it seems irrelevant. Like, whether you hate each other or not, in minutes, you're going to punch each other in the face and try to knock each other unconscious. Whether or not you like each other, hate each other, respect each other, are best friends, it seems irrelevant. But it's an interesting part of this matchup. And I'm glad people like that because I don't care why people like fighting. I just want people to like this. It's the great martial arts and martial arts competition is the greatest thing in the world. So why ever anyone likes it, it's cool with me.
Now, what do you think about Luke on that same thoughts on the matchup, on your overall take? You gave a good description of Mike. How about Luke?
Yeah, it's funny because Luke Rockhold was kind of one of my very favorites to watch. Like, I like the guys who are aesthetically pleasing in the way they execute, fighting, the way that they interpret combat. And Luke Rockhold's super fun to watch. And he was one of the guys I broke down in my first 20 or 30 breakdowns. And I broke him down twice. I broke him down once in advance of Vitor Belfort. And I said, you got to look for his kicks and his combination, especially from the southpaw stance. And we'll maybe add the link on this podcast so people can check it out. Mm-hmm. From the southpaw stance, the way he throws the straight left hand, and his is a laser. It's as beautiful a penetrating left hand as you see. And the right kicks on the outside of the front leg of the orthodox guy. So he's really good at throwing his right kicks in his left hand. Once he starts hypnotizing you with those two things, which as a southpaw kickboxer, with both of those weapons being really good, you start to really fall into the guessing game of that. He starts getting his left kick involved. So I talked about all that in front of the Vitor Belfort fight. And then Belfort, did a spinning kick and knocked him almost unconscious. First of all, not unconscious, which is spooky. You take a head kick like that from a guy who was on Super TRT to the chin, and you don't go out, it means you got a chin, you know? But so then after that, I broke it down again. I said I wanted a do-over, and I did the exact same breakdown and talked about his left kick. And then he fought that next fight that he fought against. His name is, sometimes you forget things. Yeah, Philippou. It's like, there's 550 fighters. You're like, you know, that guy fights from this. Boxing, used to train with Chris Weidman. Like, sorry to get on a tangent, but my friends will ask me about the job. And, you know, you're analyzing movement, ideas, storylines, the business. Sometimes you just forget a dude's name. Like, you can describe Costa Philippou's fighting style, where he trained, what happened between him and Chris Weidman, but for a moment you'll forget his name. Anyway, so against Philippou, he lands the huge left body kick and just shuts him right down. Mm-hmm. So that's all in play. His whole game is so fluid and beautiful, and the combination of his incredible kicking game is a huge factor. And then he goes, and in the next fight, Tim Boetsch tries to take him down, and he just runs a clinic on him on the ground. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? You're fighting at distance with this guy. He's going to kick the crap out of your body. And if you get in close, he's going to try to take you to the ground where he looks like a monster. Also, Bisping, the only guys, you know, there's been some testosterone and PED issues with some of the people he lost to. Not Dan Henderson, but some of the people he lost to. And but I think the general rule, it's not so much PEDs or whatever, but super athletes. Bisping is a clean athlete. He's not an insane strength and conditioning guy, although he has amazing cardio, but he has a hard time with super athletes. And Rockhold's a super athlete who has great kicking game, is fast and young and vital, and he's looking really good on the ground. So he's a monster too. That's why this fight is so cool. You add in that fact that people like that they, you know, hate each other, and Bisping's so funny when he hates somebody, and he seems to hate everybody. He probably hates you. Bisping, let's just lay it out there right now. Bisping hates Crooklyn.
He loves me. Are you kidding?
Everybody loves you.
Actually, we're pretty good friends.
Yeah, he's good friends, but if you were fighting him, he would hate you immediately. Exactly. And that's maybe part of his process. Everybody's different. The psychology is different. For some reason, why does he want to hate you? Is it because it helps him, or is it because it harms you?
Yeah.
If he draws you into it, does it harm you? And Rockhold is sure looking like a stud here because he's refusing to have it hurt him.
Yeah.
You know, he's just absolutely refusing to be drawn. Like, you know, he'll say things in the early stages, but in the weeks before, he's focused on the fight. He's not focused on the comedy of the things you can say or anger or any of that. Conor McGregor played it with Poirier right down to the last second before they fought.
Yeah.
He shoved his hand in his face, doing everything he could to make that guy overcommit because McGregor's a counterpuncher.
Yeah.
But what's Bisping doing? He wants you to lean into it too much. He wants you to burn out too much in the first round, knowing that he's good for 5. I mean, Bisping's a smart dude, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But Rockhold is sort of staying out of the mind games too hard.
And the thing about Bisping, a lot of people don't give him credit for. Everybody talks about, you know, his lack of power in his hands. But if you pay close attention to his fights, he does have some power in his hands. It's just, it has to be that magic moment from that magic angle on that magic spot. And he occasionally lands it. I've seen him stagger people. I've seen him drop people. It's just that, you know, it happens rarely. But he does have it. And he also, his punches and bunches work well too. Yeah. You know, the accumulatory effect, it works. I am, you know, if I were to lean in a particular direction, I would have to lean in Luke Rockhold's direction. I feel that he has a much more advantageous path to the victory here than Mike. But we'll get to that in a moment, because what I want you to do right now is I need you to briefly, because we're off on tangents today there, Chatty Cathy. Briefly give me factors that could result in a victory for both fighters and factors that could result in a loss for both fighters.
Okay. Yeah, if we go over a little too long because we're having a great time, that, hey, man, people just gonna deal. There's a lot of keys in this, more than a lot of fights. Some of them are really cut and dried. And in fact, there are fights, sometimes you look and it's like, man, this guy could have won this fight with a jab and a low kick. Why did he do so much? You know what I mean? There are fights that guys overdo everything. But this is not one of those fights. There's a lot of variables because these guys are so evolved and they're so complete, and they pick up on things and they learn things mid-fight. But for Rockhold, you want to play like a super athlete. You want everything to be heavy. You want everything to be high impact. You want everything to be strong. Bisping's the opposite of that. First of all, you were talking about his knockout power. One thing that people don't really understand is if you stood 100 men in front of Michael Bisping and he committed a 1-2 on the chin, he would knock out 96 of them. Mm-hmm. What he does is he never overcommits. And I'm not just saying this because he fought Dan Henderson. In fact, ignore that fight, but look at a fight with each of them. Take, old school Dan Henderson, and the way he throws a right hand, when he misses, he is so incredibly off balance. But that's what you do when you're trying to kill somebody with one punch. And it's fun to watch, and it's worked for this guy because he's a headhunter and he's great at it. You never see Bisping in that situation because he never throws with that level of commitment. If he did, 96 out of 100 people would be unconscious. But he plays a mobility-based game, and that's going to be one of his keys. Footwork and range control. And I went back on Fight Pass, and I'm using it. Fight Pass Marshall Zelaznik just gave me permission to use exclusive Fight Pass stuff in my video breakdowns now, so I'm super excited. So I went back and he used a bunch of stuff, and Kung Lee versus Michael Bisping was a really important fight for him on the way to this fight. In fact, you couldn't have picked a better scenario because Kung Lee is a southpaw who's a heavy kicking game, who really leans on that left power kick and is super mobile. So yes, he's not as athletic. He doesn't have the full skill set of Luke Rockhold, but he has those traits. And Bisping looked phenomenal against those traits. The heavy kicking, left power kick, creative kick southpaw. Bisping looked phenomenal against Lee. He used footwork and range control. He used feints on the inside, so he got Lee to bite on certain things and never really know when a punch was coming and a fake was coming. And then he did one really important thing, and this I think is going to be the biggest detail for both men in this fight. Against Kung Lee, Michael Bisping kicked with the kicker. Okay, so you're on the outside. There's different ranges: kicking range, punching range, clinch range, chest-to-chest range, and there's some other variables in between. But at kicking range, if there's no threat, Luke Rockhold will kick the crap out of you. If you're just at kicking range with no offensive threat, he will kick you to death. And same with Kung Lee. Bisping made Kung Lee not have that freedom to kick because Bisping kicked as well. You also saw Chris Weidman do it against Lyoto Machida, right? So Lyoto Machida at kicking range thought he'd have an advantage. When they were at kicking range, Weidman kicked him. So you take away the freedom to own the space. Now, the difference is, and this is the difference for both men. So I'm answering kind of both. What are the keys to victory for both? When Weidman was kicking with Lyoto Machida, he was free to do that because Machida ain't taken Chris Weidman down ever. And I don't think he did in 5 rounds, right? So you can kick all day long if you're not afraid of being taken down. The issue with Bisping is he wants to kick with the kicker, Luke Rockhold. But if Rockhold starts looking for catch and takedown or catch and counter and takedown, he may get Bisping to the floor. And if he does, that could be a problem for Bisping. Bisping's good off his back. If you look at the Chael Sonnen fight, Sonnen got Bisping down a couple times. Bisping will take the hard punches to get back to his feet. So he has some promise there. But kicking with the kicker will take away the range, but it may offer opportunities for takedowns. And that may be where Rockhold will do all of his offensive work. But regardless, I think that's the big picture as far as key factors resulting in a victory for Bisping, kicking with the kicker, but defending the takedowns. And for Rockhold, I think when Bisping kicks with you as a kicker, you look for takedowns or your laser left hand. Either way, man, start picturing this on the feet. Both moving around, kicking the crap out of each other. First guy to blink or make a mistake. If it's Bisping on his back, we got an interesting ground fight too. Great fight. Awesome fight.
All right. Finally, let me ask you this. The emotional factor. Tell me a little bit about that and how you think it's going to play in here.
Yeah, that's with there's certain guys that the emotional thing is a big part of the game. Weidman, when he talked to me a lot before he fought Silva the first time and the second time. And I geared in on it early when talking to him. It's like we knew how talented he was. But the big key thing for him was, I'm not fighting a myth. I am not fighting words. I am not fighting a guy who's getting inside my head. I'm just going to go out there and execute. And that's what he did. And that was a key to that first win, to beating Silva the first time. Because Anderson Silva was a guy who got your emotions involved. The Diaz brothers, like it's going to happen. You're going to fight Nick Diaz. Emotions are going to be a part of it, and you're not winning that one. He's going to provoke you, and your emotions will be a part of it. Conor McGregor has looked like, world class at it, and Michael Bisping has always been world class at it. But like we touched on earlier, I think Luke Rockhold is doing the key things, and I think if you look at the modern way to play the mental game, Conor McGregor's moments, the weeks out, the week of, the days out, the hours out, and the seconds before the fight, still shoving his hand in Poirier's face. I think that's how you have to play it if you want to get into Rockhold's head. You have to literally be like psychically play with him the whole time. And Cain Velasquez walked out to the middle and met Dos Santos when he did his walk. You know how Dos Santos walks out and he points at the cage, the floor? Cain walked out and met him. Rory McDonald keeps his hands up when he goes to face guys in those seconds before. The seconds of the walkout, the stance, and the face-to-face, guys need to use that to get into guys' heads. Will Bisping do anything there? It'll be interesting. But I think he's smart enough that he's been paying attention. And if he's going to win a psychic battle and get an emotional factor in this, he needs to play Rockhold from today all the way to the start of the fight and even within the fight. But can he do it? I don't know. That's a great question. And when we talk about this after, next week maybe, we'll find out.
Absolutely. Who wins?
I'm a huge fan of both of these guys, and I'm an analyst. And the job of an analyst, I'm not a journalist. I don't sell fights. I don't do interviews with guys. I don't have this weird feeling that I have to be impartial. I just have to be able to give real information. And so my appreciation of guys never colors my analysis, but it'll color like who wins. I'll be like, well, this is my guy. Like with certain guys, I'll do that. I have no problem doing that. It's 2014. I mean, part of analysis is adding feelings and emotion and opinion. But I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. I'm a huge fan of them for different reasons. I like everything about the way Bisping plays this. I like the kind of man he comes across as a fighter. And I like Luke Rockhold as a Strikeforce champion, as a striver, as a Chris Weidman type, as a guy striving for greatness. And I love him as as an athlete, the way you see him move, the aesthetics of fighting. I just think he's brilliant. So I like them both equally. I think Rockhold is a safe pick. But I think Bisping's on such a roll, and it's a very close fight. I really think it is. Whether it ends in a minute or 25 minutes, I think it can go either way. But I think it's the roll and the momentum Bisping's on. I think it's the emotion that he controls. And I think his success against Kung Lee, as much as he may not be the favorite, I see him winning. I really do. It's weird. But it's certainly not one I'd bet my house on. I don't think I would bet $50 on it. And I certainly don't think I would bet my reputation on it. But I kind of see him winning, But the reason it's such a good fight is because if they did it 10 times, one guy's winning 6 and one guy's winning 4.
All right. Well, I'm taking Rockhold here. Like I said earlier, I'm friends with both as well. And it's a hard choice, but, I have to go with what my mind says and not any other way. So I'm going with Rockhold here, and I do think it's going to be a finish. That said, I figure our next breakdown should probably be Fabricio Verdum and Mark Hunt. So What do you think of that?
Yeah, early next week, let's do that. Marku Huntu. Yeah, definitely. It's our goal is 20 minutes, but this one's got to be 45, right?
We're rolling on 30.
Okay, well, that's not bad. I don't think we've lost anybody. So I think mission accomplished. We looked at a great fight. We looked at Michael Bisping versus Luke Rockhold, it's an epic fight. It's a great fight from a technical standpoint, and it's a great fight from an emotional standpoint. We enjoyed a cold